Hello and welcome back to the Narrowbox channel. Today I'm looking at another new purchase. This is the Captain America, the new Captain America #1, written by Straczynski. I'm not quite sure about the other creative team members. I've never heard of them before, but again, I'm not the best at knowing people's names and their work, putting names to faces and all that stuff. So this is a funny one. The reason I'm doing this is because I've just literally watched The Mandalorian. I think it was episode 3. And there was a long, drawn-out B-plot involving, I'm not quite sure what it is, an amnesty camp for Imperial officers. Anyway, the storyline just made me question the writers. It's like, what are they trying to say? I mean, I used to have quite a good grip of a story and what the story was about. But when I was watching that, I really didn't understand much about the point of it. And I'm not going to go into the plot lines of it, but it's the same issue that I've seen with this issue of Captain America. It's the same underlying values, just seem to be slightly misaligned to the audience. And it got me thinking about Captain America and the generations and millennials and X, Y, Z and all that. And it just made me realize that Captain America is from the silent generation. So he's a character. He fought in a world war. He was raised in a really difficult time in America's history. He has very traditional values, and him having to be a man out of time and kind of live in the modern world, that was kind of the point. But there was always a Rosetta Stone of understanding between the silence, the boomers, and the Generation X, which is what I am. There was a link, a tether between us. But now we've kind of reached a point where that tether doesn't really extend. And this issue kind of highlights that, because Straczynski is a very traditional writer in the sense that he's very accomplished and he's very, very good at telling a coherent story. But the thing that's getting people fired up in Twitter about this particular issue is just, it's the divide, the generational divide in values that is happening all over the world at the moment, but particularly in America. Let's just go in and have a look. So basically, I picked this book up, and the first page I looked at this page, I thought, oh, that's beautiful. So it's nice, solid artwork. Great. That's just what we want to see. Nice, detailed. A little bit static, but, definitely legible and good to look at. And you get some nice reactions here. Broken glass. It looks like it's crystal, but I think that's smaller side. Yeah, and it's just like, it's following the format that's been laid out by the movies. Captain America and his motorbike. He's being gung-ho, and I love that. We love that action. I'd say, the action set piece doesn't end particularly excitingly, but it's still functional. And this is illustrating Captain America in his day job and Captain America in his downtime. And obviously this story is very much about inequality, and there's some of the main problems are actually facing a lot of Western countries around the world with property, cost of living, and this touches on that. And you would think that would be a universal experience given what we're going through. But there is a vocal minority on Twitter who are just losing their minds over this, saying that this is a step back into communism and a subversion of Captain America. And there are some people on both sides just having some really strange takes about this idea. So basically, Captain America, his house that he's lived in is the house that he was raised in and his apartment that he lived in was a house that his mum had when they were in the 1940s or 90s. I can't remember off the top of my head what the dates were, but when he was a kid, this is where he lived. And the landlord sold it up to developers, going to sell it up to developers. And so Steve gets the idea that he's going to buy it instead, and he's going to put it under rent control, and he's going to renovate the place, make it livable for everyone there so that no one goes homeless. And I just think that's totally what Captain America would do. You know, he is a man pragmatic in his good. He sees a need and he meets the need, and that's the values, the Christian values that America used to have. That it's, you know, it was a virtue to show kindness to your neighbors, to do the biblical thing. You know, this was the Christian values in effect. So we're seeing this played out, but somehow this gets filed under communist virtue signaling and anti-capitalist. And I do question it, because I don't really understand the problems with this. I mean, the one thing I'd say is this doesn't really seem like a great use of Captain America's time. You know, his downtime doesn't seem that relaxing. But again, you know, he's a superhuman. They do things differently. So, you know, we have a nice interchange here. Captain America's doing some renovations, and neighbors start to come bring in food and thanks. And this is community being built. And then we see some poignant pages here. I really like these scenes. The idea that Captain America had a past, and, you know, he was raised to be a good boy until one day he was alone. And this is just, I really, when I read this, I was really pleased. I thought it was a really well done book, and I really enjoyed it. And yeah, it's solid. There's nothing new. There's nothing that's like wildly innovative, but the story is solid. This is a solid Captain America story, and it's, you know, it's what Marvel should be focusing on. I don't know what that is. I've had some life-changing event, no doubt, that won't change anything. Yeah, the art is pleasant, and there's some nice little visual transitions here. I like this one. It's pretty cool, the way we go back in time, and he's off in his reverie. Yeah, it's all great. So I'm not quite sure what people are seeing that's getting them all upset about it. And we're getting to see, you know, into the past of Captain America, the formative years. And it's not really an area that has always been, it's been plumbed. There's still stuff in it that's interesting, and the films kind of showed that it was interesting. He's an interesting character. You know, the first Avenger was a great movie in the sense that it really indicated to us the difference, the thing that made him special. It wasn't his powers, it was always his character, and I think that is borne out here. But I think the other thing that it is the character and the values. And this is where I think we're kind of seeing a strange shift in the paradigms. The reason that this could be so divisive is that the values in America have shifted to such a degree that virtue signaling itself has become the main virtue. So showing people that you've got values is important, and so that kind of manifests itself as a low-level anger towards anyone who doesn't believe the things you believe. You know, you're constantly protesting the existence of other people's beliefs because it's runs contrary to what you believe. And the one thing I would say about that is you can build communities, siloed communities, but that's something that most corporations tried to move away from in the 1980s and 90s. You know, they recognized that innovation didn't happen in those places. You needed diverse groups of people. And the people that are actually arguing for diversity, they're not actually arguing for diversity. They want uniformity of thought. which is the opposite of diversity. So if you have a load of people that think the same exact thing, you don't have diversity, you have uniformity. You might look different, you might express yourself sexually, or you might have different ethnicities, but you all believe the same thing. And that is a dangerous step. So I think what's happening with the way that people see this is that Captain America does not virtue signal, and he's not written that way. Michael Straczynski doesn't write him that way. He sees a need and he meets the need, and he doesn't really concern himself too much with what other people think about it. And that's always been the strength of the character, but now it's becoming a weakness, and it's actually fascinating to watch. So here we have him. He's getting chatted up to go on an adventure with the Fantastic Four, and we don't get to see it. It's a bit sad. I'd like to have seen more of that sort of stuff in this book, and this is not what this is about. And then it kind of takes a bit of a contrived plot point to kind of push the story on. This is where Captain America's taking out some thugs, but he's tired from his adventure with the Fantastic Four, and one of the guys gets a drop on him, and he's rescued by a neighbor. Again, I don't want to ruin the books I'm looking at, but this one is particularly interesting to me because of the reception it's got, and that's all I wanted to say. I think that Captain America, this is a Captain America book. If you like old-fashioned Captain America and you have the same values, and you don't think that virtue signaling itself is the virtue, then this is a book for you. But if you think that every time something objectionable comes up, you must run out to meet it head on and start getting vocal and loud, and you can't keep your thoughts to yourself, this is not, Captain America's probably not the guy for you. And the values that underpin the character used to underpin the country, but those values are fractured and people are atomized, and that's why I think we see people believing that Captain America's gone commie, or he's not being capitalist. I think it's a strange one. It's a strange one. But anyway, I'm not going to spoil this book. It's full of annoying contrivances, but one of the things that I love, that I always want to see more of in the Marvel Universe, that they just seem to shy away from, is how these amazing godlike people interact with normal people. And it's one of the things I loved about the Matt Fraction Hawkeye run, where we were looking at Clint in his apartment, and he's getting upset with the Tracksuit Boys. It was a great story. It was something different, something new, seeing an Avenger dealing with street level threats, and they're kind of trying to do that with this book, but it doesn't quite work the same way, because Captain America is Captain America. He's the all-star of the Avengers. So whereas Clint was a human with extremely good aim, and there's a slight difference there. And this is a format that doesn't work so well, but we're getting hints of a B plot. It's a quite surprising B plot. I won't spoil it, but it's a billionaire looking for a way to control the world. And again, it's rooted in the modern thought process, but there is an interesting point to this. So it's using parts and pieces that we're seeing in political and public discourse, but it's weaving them into a very old-fashioned plot. And I actually quite enjoyed it for that reason. So I will give the next one a go. I think personally, I'd rather wait to see. The ending of this book is actually quite interesting, and it might seem inflammatory, but if you understand in the times of uncertainty and the international view of the First and Second World War, and how how people dealt with them, because we often think that America just was like, oh, Hitler was evil's got to go down. It's not that simple. America didn't enter the war for quite some time, and they only did so because it was brought to their doorstep. Then historians have highlighted the fact that maybe the British could have warned America, but had they warned America, America would still been reluctant to join the war effort. Who knows how these things play out? But the point is, this book is not about those things. That it was about the people on street level, and that's one of the things that I've been asking for a long, long time, and now they're giving it to me. So I can't not read it, for that reason. And the ending is very interesting. So it does set up an actual interesting run potential, and that's something I will give a go. I think anyone who likes Captain America, likes the values and the vision that he has for the world and the way that he operates, this is a good book. So I don't listen to the haters. Straczynski's solid, and the artwork's solid, and the plot's fine. So I'd give it a go. Anyway, that's all I got for today. So have a lovely day, and thanks for listening. Cheers.